Hello folks, Phil Gallagher of ThrabenU here for another Pioneer video. Today's video is sponsored by Moxfield.com and we'll take a look at them after round one. We're going to be messing around with Oliver S.'s Dredgeless Dredge deck, and I know the first thing you're thinking, like how can we have Dredge without Dredge? We are going to use some of the enablers like Stitcher Supplier and Satyr Wayfinder that go and put cards into your graveyard. And we're going to use some of these same payoff cards that you might used to be seeing in dredge decks in various formats. Essentially, as we mill these cards, we are looking to put creatures like Prized Amalgam and Narcomoeba into play, or maybe get some incidental value out of cards like Creeping Chill, which kind of like work as free lightning helixes. We also have some other creatures like Silversmote Ghoul, which have the ability to come back from the graveyard, although we have to work a little bit harder with some of these cards. And the same is also true of Tenacious Underdog. So we're going to be playing the games in the tournament practice room today because I don't think this deck is going to be super competitive the way that it stands. I think the idea is good. But just kind of taking a quick look at the deck here, if we start by looking at the mana base, there's some things in here like Westvale Abbey where, like, yes, in theory we could tap 5 and sacrifice 5 creatures to get a 9/7 flying lifelink indestructible haste creature, which is cool and all, but I think it's just going to be like more important to cast cards like Otherworldly Gaze. And if we kind of take a look at the mana base here, it's not actually particularly good at casting our blue card. And I think that is kind of important. Um, so I'm going to just start playing the games with the expectation that I'm going to change this deck list 2 or 3 times throughout the league. But this deck is kind of kooky enough that I want to play some games with it before I start messing around with it. Like, for example, oh, my cat is playing with a garbage bag through the door. Okay. Hello, Popo. All right. So okay, I gotta stop that. Hold on. Okay. Anyway, I'm gonna play some games with the expectation that I'm gonna have to change this deck list a couple of times. I do like some of the things that are in the sideboard. So, for example, Grim Flare can be a way to just kind of like try to kill the opponent faster when that's something that you need to do. But ultimately, my problem with a lot of the brews that I've played in Pioneer is that they just like don't compete with the higher tier decks of the format, especially the mono green Storm deck. So we'll kind of see how this holds up. Just kind of like the inevitability and speed that some of those other decks have are scary, and we'll see if we can keep up. If you're new here and you like what you see today, please consider subscribing to the channel, and if you're a regular, throw me a like before this video begins. This is especially important for the Pioneer videos, which don't tend to have very good metrics, even though the format tends to be pretty fun. Alright, let's battle. Okay, we are playing against an Obosh deck of some kind. I'm going to keep my hand. I have multiple ways to put stuff into the graveyard, and Gurmag Angler as a potential early payoff card. I don't know this card. Deals 1 damage to each opponent, each creature... Sorry, each opponent and each planeswalker. When you cast your next creature spell this turn, enters with a +1/+1 counter. Exile it. If a creature dealt damage by this card would die, exile it instead. Okay. That's a lot of stuff for a 1-drop. That's pretty cool. Alright. Blooming Marsh into Stitcher Supplier. I'm gonna get rid of this Obosh. Okay. Not the best hits there. Like, we have something that can come back, but, you know, we don't necessarily want to pay 2 life for a 3/2. Phoenix Chick? Okay. A little scarier as a 2/2. Gonna be a decent amount of pressure. That flies, so I can't block it. I don't want to be drawing these Creeping Chills. That's the wrong zone for these. I guess I just play Westvale Abbey this turn. I can shock myself later if I need to, but if I don't have to shock myself, I don't want to shock myself. Alright, let's see how good this is. Multiple otherworldly gazes. Do I want to put this land into my graveyard? The next turn, if I don't shock myself, I want 5 cards in graveyard. 1, 2, 3, 4. Get rid of this. 5. Leave otherworldly gaze in there. I don't think I put that in my hand. Just keep my graveyard count high. Alright, so now this turns into... Oh, it's another one. That's pretty respectable. Alright. A creature dealt damage this turn by a source you controlled would die. Exile it instead. So my blocks here with Stitcher Supplier aren't actually good. I think I'm just going to get run over here. I have to just double block this and just get this effect out of play so my blocks become better in the future. Very possibly. Ooh, they are going for a spell here. Sure. So that creature obviously goes to exile. I take a lot of damage here. If I'm playing a Gurmag Angler and a tapped land, we'll go tapped Watery Grave. I get 2 mana. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll just get rid of the Tenacious Underdog. 5. Leave the Otherworldly Gazes in there. We've got a 5/5, but that's not actually as good as it necessarily looks with a Soul Scour Mage in play. Definitely a little nervous. Damage to any target, sure. The flying source alone is pretty bad for me. Oh gosh. Yeah, I'm basically just dead here, right? Like, my opponent attacks with everything. I block this. I take 4. Phoenix Chick kills me in the air next turn. And now I can't do this untapped. Cast Creeping Chill, like I was hoping to do. I guess I can cast this and see if anything changes. The answer is probably no. Guess I can hit like a Narcomoeba. But, like... Alright. So put all of those into the graveyard. I do get a Narcomoeba. But, like, this is the last 2 points of damage. Because this thing has haste when it flips. I can't cast another spell. Yeah, okay. I just get overrun here. Alright. So do I just want Grim Flares? Just as something that trades with these early creatures? Very possibly. I don't think making my opponent discard some cards matters. That can probably go. Like, the Blitz cost of 2 life here is, like, probably not reasonable. Although it is just a 3/2 that I can play. Witherbloom Command can technically kill that Saga. And can sometimes kill creatures. I don't know, like, my deck just feels kind of slow here. I kind of wish I had more copies of Gurmag Angler than just the 2, I think. Silversmote Ghoul feels a little slow. Collective Brutality can technically gain some life, and is also a removal spell. Alright, maybe I get 2 Collective Brutalities in there. As of right now, this gets me 2 Grimflayers, and... I don't know, maybe I go down some Grizzly Salvages? I think it's slow. When Witherbloom Command can kind of do a similar thing while sometimes also being a removal spell. I don't know. I don't feel great about things. And, like, my opponent has a companion as well that, like, didn't come into play this game but could in the future. I believe in a multiple Stitcher Supplier hand with a single land. Let's say yes. I don't have enough games with this deck to know whether or not that's actually true. Like, in Legacy, this sort of hand is often nuts, but I feel like a lot of the things that I'm doing there are just more powerful than what I'm doing here. Alright, a Soul Scour Mage. That's not the end of the world. Missed on another land, unfortunately, and I also milled one of my Gurmag Anglers, which additionally just is not good for me. Creeping Chill, though, is pretty sick. Should I attack with this? Probably not. Just, like, not the best blocker. We'll do a little bit of damage. Didn't necessarily get as much value out of the Stitcher Suppliers as I wanted to. But as long as they... yuck. That is exceptionally bad for me. Like, that kind of ruins my plans. I guess I block with one of these and try to get my opponent to blow the Soul Guide Lantern as quickly as possible. Because they might just do it now to stop a Gurmag Angler from coming into play. Yeah, okay, they are going for that. Alright, I have missed on my land drop. I'll attack with the Narcomoeba, block with the Stitcher Supplier. I don't think my Stitcher suppliers are generating enough value to make my keep reasonable, now that I've, like, played it out a little bit. Oh, well, that's pretty bad. Alright, Stitcher supplier, I needed some hits there. Yeah, I think if I miss on a land drop, just guaranteed dead. Alright, I'm at 18. I've missed my land drop. I'm taking 5. I'm not generating anything to the board. Alright, I am comfortable conceding there. GG. Today's video is sponsored by Moxfield.com, which is a deck building site for Magic the Gathering. If you're like me and you make a lot of deck lists, and I'm talking like 5 or more a week, you might be kind of frustrated with how hard it can be to find them in some databases. Worry not, Moxfield has all of these nice hubs that you can use to kind of mark your deck lists to make them more easily searchable and findable by other people who are building similar things as you are. Alright, what am I looking at? I have 2 ways to put stuff into the graveyard. I have 2 colors of mana. This hand is okay. I am on the draw here. Relevant. Sure. I don't want to draw Narcomoeba. Let's just do a tapped Ancient Tomb. Opponent might be playing a control deck of some kind with, like, Cycling Wells, Witching Well, ETB Scry 2. Sure. I do not know what we are playing against, but I'm going to assume that this is not necessarily the fairest thing in the world in some capacity or other. Like, I'm not sure if this is just adding to an artifact count or if my opponent can recur this in some way. I don't think I need to destroy it immediately or anything. I will not put a land into my hand. I will, however, get a Narcomoeba. And yes, I will use that ability. I don't have blue mana for Otherworldly Gaze, which is kind of a big deal. Have an untapped artifact or creature you control to add a colorless. Sure. What's the artifact payoff that's legal in this format? Servo schematic. A 1/1 whenever it ETBs or is put into the graveyard. Sure. I am getting these cards in the wrong zones here. I guess I get rid of, like, this Moonsnare prototype. Not knowing what exactly my opponent is doing makes this a little harder for me. Alright. Target me. Try Moonsnare prototype. And let's see how this goes. I'll return the Mana Confluence. Alright, I'll play that. I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 6 total in graveyard, so I can play Gurmag Angler if I want to get rid of that prized Amalgam. Honestly, I'm good with this. Like, Gurmag Angler is just, like, objectively quite strong. I will play the big dumb card. Let's bash in with a Narcomoeba. I guess I can bash in with the Wayfinder so it doesn't chump block a Gurmag Angler later. Like, I'm totally happy with this trade. I did not think my opponent would be taking that. Okay, that was enough to get a concession. I still don't really know what my opponent is doing. And without really knowing what my opponent is doing, it's kind of hard for me to sideboard. I'm going to assume that more copies of Witherbloom Command is a good idea, and that an additional copy of Boseiju is probably good too. Let's maybe board out a Westvale Abbey for that land. Then I'll make 2 other cuts of some kind. How important is this card? Trample could be relevant if I have a Gurmag Angler. Let's assume the one of isn't super relevant. And let's get rid of 1 Tenacious Underdog. Like, I've got other things that I want to play on my 2-drop slot. Let's call that good for now. My opening hand isn't really impressive here. I have plenty of mana and then, like, a Satyr Wayfinder. I don't know that this is really good enough, because the handful of cards being milled isn't exactly like, my Stitcher supplier sort of things haven't been as good as I kind of expected them to be. At the same time, like, I also have a Boseiju, which is kind of a spell if I need to blow up an artifact. Let's try to do better than this. Second hand has 1 land, which makes me nervous, but a much better density of spells. I guess I'll keep this. I'm not super happy with this one either, though, if I'm being honest. This deck may need more land. What's the land count here? 21? Eh. Okay, just a tapped land. Okay, we'll do Blooming Marsh this turn. Play my Stitcher Supplier. I'm going to have a reasonable game of Magic since I did hit that second land drop. I don't have blue mana for Otherworldly Gaze, which is, I think, something I've said about 3 times by now. Alright. Your schematic is fine. I feel like I probably start by attacking with a Stitcher Supplier. I don't think my opponent wants to block here. Could be wrong, but I am fine with giving my opponent that choice. Ooh, they do want to block. Ooh, there is a Narcomoeba. Oh, I will go for my second Blooming Marsh. I will go ahead and play Theater Wayfinder. Maybe I should have played that pre-combat. I guess I'll put the Boseiju to my hand. I don't know. Well, will I get to 5 creatures for Westvale Abbey? I maybe won't get to 5 creatures in 5 mana. Let's take the Boseiju. Alright. I get to Creeping Chill my opponent for some damage. I've already made my land drop. Ooh, I do get the Silversmote Ghoul because of Creeping Chill. Hashtag value. And I really just don't know what's coming. So I don't know what I'm playing around here. I still don't have blue mana. I have a Boseiju if things get weird in combat. The sorcery. I mean, is like a deadly dispute about to happen? That the sort of thing that we're doing here? No? Okay. I can play this with haste next turn. I don't necessarily want to do this yet. Let's play a cast. Those aren't Womps. Well, okay, I guess we're doing this now then. Let's mill 3 and drain. Target my opponent with a second half. But I was absolutely supposed to shock myself and play Silversmote Ghoul here. Okay, I can finally get access to blue mana. I will grab Breeding Pool. But again, like playing Breeding Pool untapped would have been a fine line as well. Okay, so they are going for the end of turn Swift End. That's fine. Like, this is a pretty reasonable card to just play out. Definitely makes me wish that I had this in play. Alright. There is a Castle Locked Wayne. I guess we're just going to, like, Otherworldly Gaze Value Town. Let's do a shock here. And see what I can do with this. Ooh, nice. So that goes into my graveyard. I think my mana is spoken for. I think I'm fine just sending all of these cards into my graveyard. So let's go yes there. I guess I will just go ahead and put this into play. I don't know that I need to hold up Boseiju. And then I can go ahead and send in with the Flying Narcomoeba, which just gets over this. And return Silversmote Ghoul. My deck is admittedly doing its fucking thing here, and it's doing it pretty well. Oh wow, that's coming in. I don't know that I need to rush. I can just trade with this. Like, my opponent's confident enough to be attacking. Let's just trade with this. Alright, so that goes to the bottom of my opponent's library, which shouldn't really matter. Okay, yeah, that's the sort of thing that I thought might be coming. Grizzly Salvage, sure. I can Tenacious Underdog to just deal 3 immediate damage. I don't know that I need to do that. I just want to cast the Grizzly Salvage and see where that gets me. Let's start here. Put a Boseiju into my hand. Putting Narcomoeba. Yeah, okay. Cool. And that's enough to get me the match. Okay, I think I've seen enough games that I'm ready to do some adjusting to the deck list. Alright, 30-second deck update. I have gone up to 4 Gurmag Anglers in the main deck. I've been pretty impressed by that card. It is a card that can probably win the game on its own, which is kind of unlike a lot of the other stuff here. And I'm going to try to go to Pathways as my go-to mana for this deck. There were some triomes that were in here before, and like while those are tri lands, I don't think I want ETB tapped lands because I think I like in a lot of worlds I want to be able to play 1-drop into 2-drop, and like I don't know how many lands like guaranteed tap lands that I can afford. I think a Castle Locked is good enough to keep, but I did trim one of those. And I've moved the Tenacious Underdogs to the sideboard to fit in the Gurmag Angler, and I've gone up to 22 lands, as like I don't know that a one-lander is keepable under any circumstance in this hand after playing out a double Stitcher Supplier hand and just kind of seeing how that feels. So bumping up one is probably okay. Let's get back into some matches and see how it feels now. Okay, my opponent has revealed Gigantha as a companion, so we'll have to keep that in mind. This looks like a really good opening hand. I don't have blue mana, but I have my mana spoken for a very large number of turns, so ultimately I think that's going to be okay. Oh, just immediate creeping chill. Getcha. And that's Silversmote Ghoul as well? Lucky! That's a pretty good Pioneer turn. I'm very happy with that. 4 power on board plus a lightning bolt on turn 1. Deece. Ran Portal. There's a battlefield tapped unless you can evolve to basic land type. Okay. So this is essentially a basic land that's also a gate that costs life to activate. So we are playing against a gate deck of some kind. Understood. I'm always shocking. Grizzly Salvage is 5 cards. Satyr Wayfinder is 4 cards, but this is another body on board. I think I value the body on board. Not 100% sure. Oh my gosh. These pseudo dredges have been absolutely fucking disgusting. Wow. I'm gonna get prized Amalgam at end step. Yeah, so my opponent takes 3 more damage here. I get a prized Amalgam to play. Unless like the gate board wipe happens, I think my opponent's gonna be dead very quickly. Yeah. This is good. This is also an instant. This is also an instant. Hell yeah. Alright. So let's go ahead and do this. I will crash in with all of my creatures. Alright, my opponent is going to go ahead and take the block. And since these are both instants, I'm just going to go ahead and pass the turn. Like, I have lethal amounts of damage on board. I don't necessarily have to respond here. Growth Spiral is fine. This is the dream for this deck. Like, this is what the donor wanted the deck to do, and it's doing it. Okay, there's some life gain. I don't think an 8/8 saves you. I'm gonna go to second main here. Which way do I want to do this? Put the 5 in first? Probably put the 5 in first. Alright, so I will put a Satyr Wayfinder into my hand. With these triggers on the stack, I'm going to go ahead and cast Otherworldly Gaze in case I hit another thing that's relevant here. Okay, my opponent just gives it up there. Yeah, that's fine. That was gross, honestly. So I have like Gates Ablaze, which is the gate board wipe to worry about here. Maybe that means I want Tenacious Underdog as something that can come back. I also don't think Thoughtseizes are crazy to try to take that board wipe. But like maybe my prized Amalgam and Silversmote Ghouls already just come back anyway, and like it's fine. How good is Witherbloom command here? The burn spell, like that's worth something. But I bet Tenacious Underdog on average does more damage. I could Collective Brutality. I also could, like, Grim Flare. I don't know. Plan A worked pretty darn well the first time around. What color are you on the back? You are black on the back. This hand's kind of medium. Like, the turn 1 Stitcher Supplier is really good. And then I miss out on a turn 2 play a lot of the time. Any green land is good. A Stitcher Supplier is good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. 20 good hits, 2 draws for them. I'm very on the fence on this one. I'm going to keep it with the hopes that Gurmag Angler plus Stitcher's Supplier gets me to where I need to be. Not 100% sure if that's actually true. But we will find out. Okay. Less impressive milling that time. I don't need too much here to start doing some cool things. I have missed in my 2 draws, though, which is not fantastic, and this was either a mulligan or maybe I still need more lands. I don't know. Like, in the worlds where I hit one of those 20 cards in 2 draws, it's really good, and I also think I can miss once and still be fine. Alright. So things get better here. So, let's do this whole song and dance and see where this goes. Do I even want to put that into my hand? I just put that into my graveyard and then just cast creeping shit, or like, yeah, I think I say no to that and just do a Gurmag Angler this turn. 7 cards in graveyard. I think I prefer the creeping chill damage. So let's go ahead and exile that for the damage. Say no to Narcomoeba. I'm gonna cast this while I have priority. Do a Gurmag Angler, which is unlikely to get killed by the gate spell. The Gates Ablaze. Hit for 1, put my opponent to 18. I gave up some graveyard-oriented value, but like I have a 5/5 in play. That's definitely worth something. How much it's worth really depends on whether or not my opponent can play like a Gatebreaker Ram or something this turn. But this is going to dodge Gates Ablaze if that's something that my opponent was doing. Like, they just got red, so there's a very good chance that that is the case. What is this? Destroy target non-land permanent. If it's a creature, or if green-white was spent, cast a spell. Okay, cool. Alright, so my opponent now will get another gate to play. And things are okay as long as they don't have a gate payoff. That's kind of a gate payoff, but I'm not expecting to lose to that card, you know? So I'm in a little bit of an awkward holding pattern right now, where I don't really have too much going on. But my opponent doesn't either. So, like, I am getting further ahead on board. And, like, I can play out another Silversmote Ghoul. If my opponent board wipes, I can just Creeping Chill to get these back. This is a lot of incidental life gain. Like, my opponent has gained 9 life so far off Plaza of Harmonies. Okay, my opponent gets 2 gates. That was Maze's End, 10 different gates. 10 or more gates with different names. And 3 of those are Plaza of Harmony, so that's not actually super spooky right now. Oh, is your last card like a Gatebreaker Ram? Ooh, your last card is a Gatebreaker Ram, which is a 7/7. Notably with Trample. Creeping Chill can't go for creatures, right? Yeah. To opponent. Am I fine with Stitcher Supplier dying? I would be fine with Stitcher Supplier dying. Is this thing an instant? It is an instant. Like, multi-blocking a little weird. Maybe I don't need to try to push a single point of damage here. Maybe I just leave more bodies back. If this thing didn't have Trample, I just get to, like, block and sacrifice this, because unlike a lot of the things that normally come back from the graveyard, this one can actually block. Alright, they're activating the Maze's End. Brings that up to an 8/8. See if they go for the attack. They are not. I can attack with all my stuff and then bring back some Silversmote Ghouls. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is not scary yet, but it will become scary. I need to go wide of this creature. Let's see how my opponent responds to this. I maybe attack with a Satyr Wavefinder too. I don't know, that gives my opponent just a decent block with this. Just free, although this is already just free. My opponent blocks like this and like this. This attack is free. This is trample. Alright. Let's send them all in. I'm not 100% sure if this is right. Alright, so that pushes 4 points of damage. Oh wait, Plaza of Harmony isn't a gate itself. There's only 5 gates on the other side of the battlefield then. Alright, do I still want to Creeping Chill to only return one of these? I don't think I do. I think I actually want to Grizzly Salvage here and see where this goes. Okay. I guess take a Pathway. That's fine. Now, I will sacrifice this to draw a card. Nice. Then Creeping Chill happens. That's going to return both of these at my end step. I guess this can go on the green side. Unfortunately, this wasn't a blue land here. And then these come on back. Take a decent amount of damage from the Gatebreaker Ram here. Probably 9 or 10. But I'm at 26 and I can gain more. I am at 5 lands with no ability to cast Otherworldly Gaze, so maybe I still don't have enough blue mana in the deck despite adding more sources. I'll kind of have to do another count towards the end of this league. I did the 5-minute mana base update, not the run all of the numbers, see how many of what sources on what turns I have. Sort of rundown. Alright, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, Maze's End is getting scary. So I guess it's the same attack again. And then I do the whole Grizzly salvage thing. Which can go in a few different directions. Silversmote Ghoul's doing some work. Oh, my opponent's got a spell this time. Abrupt Decay on a Ghoul. That's fine. I am hoping to bring those back this turn. Although it does only mean that I get 1 point of damage in. Alright. I'm going to greed a little bit here. Cast this, hoping to get an untapped land to cast Creeping Chill. Should be fine most of the time. Yeah, and this is blue mana too. Absolutely good with that. Fine with picking up a Narcomoeba. Play the backside of this, so now that I have blue, Creeping Chill my opponent for 3 damage. And then return to Silversmote Ghouls. Okay, this is cool. Like, I'm still definitely scared. Let's be clear. I don't have any sort of way to, like, remove that Gatebreaker Ram or, like, do Death Touch or anything like that. It was maybe a deck building problem. Okay, there is the Gigantha. Makes my attacks a lot worse. Okay, this one is a gate. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Will be 9. Yeah, shit's a little scary here. Alright, I'm gonna take that 10 damage. Trample's very good. Alright. If I cast you from hand, you do enter normally. What am I doing with my life here? How am I beating this? I can't go wide of damage right now. It probably starts with this. Yeah, all of that can go into my graveyard. Guess we start doing this. And I don't know, maybe I should have left the Grizzly Salvage on top, question mark. Tried to go into like another Creeping Chill. Gurmag Angler helps a bit. Wasn't really quite what I wanted. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Play an Overgrown Tomb tapped. Yeah, I can like avoid lethal damage this turn, but I am just losing to the Maze's End pretty soon. I think I should have left the Grizzly Salvage on top. Drawn it with 1 Silversmote Ghoul. Try to mill into Crippling Chill to get the Ghoul back. I don't know, like getting the Gurmag on board is not bad. Oh, ho, 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 no. So my opponent is going to draw some cards. Okay, they have just taken an extra Ancestral here. And I'm going to be dead to the Maze's End activation next turn. Let alone this other stuff that's going on. Yeah. I have been overwhelmed. Alright, the Gatebreaker Ram is coming in. I think I block this with as little toughness as possible. Go to 1 here, and I don't really think I have a way to come out from under this. So I guess we start here. Do this whole underworldly gaze thing. All of that can just go into my graveyard. I don't actually have another blue source to do this again. So I'm dead to either the gates or the tramplers. GG. Okay, so I don't really have removal in my sideboard for a creature that's that large. Am I meant to Thoughtseize them out of the way? I could see it. I could like remove the Tenacious Underdogs without super missing them. Play Thoughtseize. And then if Thoughtseize replaces a turn 1 play, I go down on Otherworldly Gaze. Sure. And my opponent's incidental life gain, coupled with sweepers, coupled with creatures much larger than mine, gives me a little spooked. I'll keep this hand and kind of hope that my mills are good. I need them to be good. Because, like, if I have an aggressive hand, like last time around, like, there is a very real chance that I just put a handful of creatures in play and deal 10 or more damage before my opponent can kind of stabilize things. Get this blue land into play, I think. Play a Satyr Wayfinder. And get no lands. I will get a Narcomoeba and a Prized Amalgam, though, which is exactly what I'm hoping to do. And I'll do a little love tap for 1. I have 6 power in play. Opponent can't really do anything about that in this turn cycle. They do have red mana for a board wipe. But they're not going to do anything else this turn other than make their land drop, so that's at least some guaranteed damage. Alright. Let's do this and then presumably play a tapped land. Okay. I think I'll get the Mana Confluence in case I need an untapped mana source. I guess these are untapped mana sources. If I can shock for them, I could just play Blooming Marsh tapped this turn without costing myself any life with that card ever. Okay. That's fine. Not a... Oh. Well. You know. That would have entered tapped in the future. Okay, this is fine. Bash for 6. My opponent board wiping this turn would be a little inconvenient. The Stitcher Supplier and Prized Amalgam could do some things, though, in helping me recover from that. Yeah, I'm very much the beatdown here. Yeah, so this is 2 damage, so it doesn't kill the Prized Amalgam, but it gets a lot of value. There's another Prized Amalgam. I have no Silversmote Ghoul in graveyard, though, unfortunately, which I could bring back with Creeping Chill. But this isn't the best for me. This game may be starting to slip away. If I can find another way to get some stuff into my graveyard, I'm probably golden. I think I shock with this land here. I can play double Narcomoeba this turn. Not necessarily the most impressive threats in the world. I milled over 3 of my Gurmag Anglers, which hurts. And these Plaza of Harmonies, like, my opponent would be at 10 if not for those. Sure, that's fine. Like, that can chump block my Prize Amalgam, but it doesn't, like, stop it from attacking in the same way that a Ram would. Alright, Azorius Guildgate. Okay, this is a very good draw. I guess I do my attack pre-combat. That's not what I attack before I cast that card, is my attack pre-combat. That's obvious gibberish. Okay. Opponent junking a Narcomoeba and taking a chump block, so they only take 1. Here's to hoping the Stitcher Supplier is good, because this can mill a lot of things that just turn the game on a dime. Like, the Silversmote Ghoul, for example, is insane because it returns Prized Amalgam off of Creeping Chill. Did find an Otherworldly Gaze, which I guess I will go ahead and cast. Again, hoping to return Prized Amalgam. Okay, there's a Silversmote Ghoul. I'll put the castle in there. Do I want to keep Grizzly Salvage on top? An above average draw. Keep that on top. Put Grizzly Salvage on top of Library. And then that can go in tapped. And then I've got potentially Silversmote Ghoul into Prized Amalgam off of casting this Creeping Chill. I may or may not do immediately, depending on what my opponent does. Alright, that's Gigantha to hand. So, this is a sorcery, which is a little awkward for me. I always hit my opponent for 5. And drop them to 10. Playing Creeping Chill is a little awkward if my opponent has the another Gates Ablaze, but I think it's very good in the worlds that they don't. I think I'm going to go ahead and just go for this now. That returns a Ghoul. Oh, actually, that's not going to return Prize Amalgam, is it? Oh, no, it is, but at my opponent's end step, which is actually very profitable for me, so I missed that initially. So that means that Prized Amalgam would actually dodge Gates Ablaze, which is pretty important. Okay. So my opponent chooses Odd and gets rid of most of my creatures. And then I get a Prized Amalgam at their end step, which is super cool. So I will go ahead and attack with these creatures. Puts my opponent to 3. I think since they can die to Crippling Chill, I go ahead and cast Grizzly Salvage right now. See what we hit. What do I want to put into my hand? Prized Amalgam? These are both odds. Has more toughness. You know, I can sack the Silversmote Ghoul in some worlds. Maybe I put another one of these in there. I don't know. Prized Amalgam comes back from more things than the Ghoul does. Alright. I've got 7 power on board. Now, my opponent has board wipes that can answer this. The Extinction event leaves me with a Narcomoeba, which pecks my opponent again. Gates Ablaze answers everything. Okay, that is a Guild Summit. That is probably not a good sign for my opponent, because I don't think they can tap any here. Okay, they do get some card draws. Did you draw an out? They did not draw an out. Ooh, GG. Okay, I think I'm looking at a clear mulligan here. I just don't have any early plays whatsoever. This is a one-lander that can't cast the Otherworldly Gazes to try to get to the second lander. I think I'd rather go to 5 than keep this, and this is easily the best hand so far. This Ghoul goes back, and I think Clearwater Pathway goes back. And this will let me cast my green-black spells, and also cast my Grizzly Salvage and any potential blue spells in the future. I'm quite happy with this hand, and we'll see how the roulette the roulette wheels of fate feel like treating me. I think I cast Grizzly Salvage next turn, but I don't really know. Oh, opponent's also doing some graveyard nonsense. What are you doing? Oh, that's what you're doing. Yeah, that's fine. Oh, they had to take a land, though. Took a Blooming Marsh. I guess that's good, unless they already just have the Grease Fang in hand, you know. Okay. I don't need blue mana right now, so I guess I can play this. And I can Grizzly Salvage on my opponent's turn, I think. I think I have to do that now. I'll bash in for my 1, because I don't think my opponent wants to trade for my creature. I'm fine with trading the 1 point of damage. But I think I just die this turn. Well, not, like, literally, but I think effectively I die this turn. I don't know, like, Grease Fang returning a 6/5 is not the end of the world, right? Like, it's a lot of damage. Like, my opponent would need another follow-up play. It's not like the, what is it, the Parhelion 2, where, like, the Angels are a huge mess. There's some worlds where I would trade a Narcomoeba for this thing, right? So I guess let's cast this. I would like a Satyr Wayfinder to my hand here. Okay, I get to Creeping Chill my opponent. Yes, which will get me a Silversmote Ghoul at end step. I will happily take my 1 point of damage, and then hopefully do some gross things to my opponent. Give a little love tap here. Drops my opponent to 13. Shock with this land. Play a Stitcher's Supplier. The trigger gets a Creeping Chill. I could respond to that with an Otherworldly Gaze to try to look for another Silversmote Ghoul. I don't think I want to do that. Yes, I will use that ability, and then I'll play a Satyr Wayfinder. I will gladly pick up a Boseiju to my hand. Pick up a Narcomoeba here as well. And then at end step, we get some ghouls. Really? This doesn't have to see the life gain happening? Okay, yeah, it's at the beginning of your end step if you gain 3 or more life this turn. It doesn't have to see it. Cool. I did not even have to think about using the Otherworldly Gaze yet. Okay, this just connives. Sure. That's not super scary for me. Like, I have a Boseiju for next turn. I guess they could go untapped land into Greasefang. Did they already play a land? Yeah, they already played the Pathway. Okay, so I'm good. Yeah, like, as long as I get to Boseiju this thing next turn when my opponent plays a Greasefang, I think I'm golden. And my opponent's at a low enough life total that I can probably just swing these creatures sideways for a couple of turns and have everything work out in my favor. A Witherbloom command, sure. Ah, there's Liliana of the Veil, which is now new to this format. At some point, I'll probably try out a mono black deck that has her in it, because, you know, that's kind of one of my things. A Grizzly Salvage. I'm fine with doing that. I can attack first. Random. My opponent can trade Satyr Wayfinder for this, and then just take a chump block, taking 3 damage. That's fine. Do I want to do this right now? I would never not hold up Boseiju. So this is an instant. This can be done at instant speed. I think I'm just good. My opponent was playing like an Esper version where I had to be thinking about counterspells as well. Maybe I go about things differently. No, you can do your own Grizzly Salvage thing. Alright. So, what just went to hand? A Satyr Wayfinder. Do you have a Gurmag Angler? You have a Tassiger. Oh, sure. Alright, and you've got more land. Opponent's got a scarier combo finish than I do. Oh wow, they're going for a Drain, sure. I assume they're not attacking with this? Yeah. And in second main phase, now that I don't have to hold this up, I can do both of my cards here. Let's go black-green for Grizzly Salvage. Oh, cool. I'm going to get a Creeping Chill. I will put a Satyr Wayfinder into my hand. And Creeping Chill trigger on the stack. I will go ahead and pay the life to Otherworldly Gaze. Narcomoeba can go into graveyard. Pathway can go into graveyard. Gurmag Angler is probably an above average draw. Do that for 1 mana, and I can't Satyr Wayfinder while also holding up Boseiju. Still think I probably take it. Alright, so you go on top of library. I get a Narcomoeba. I drain my opponent for 6. I will move to my... Oh, this is only at the beginning of your end step. This is not symmetrical. I thought I was supposed to get that back one time earlier when I didn't. Alright, so now I know what's up. That was a reason to potentially do it on my turn instead. Do I want to attack with my Stitcher Suppliers? Given that I'm about to Gurmag Angler, I don't think I mind that, actually. Like, 6 more potential cards to graveyard is pretty scary. Alright. Let's see how gross this gets. There is a Creeping Chill. I don't think I want to respond to that with Otherworldly Gaze. Alright, that puts my opponent to 1. There's a Narcomoeba. I'm just good with that. Now I will do a 1 mana Gurmag Angler. Get rid of a decent number of irrelevant cards here. Then I've got Boseiju up. And I do some Silversmote Ghoul nonsense as well. Okay, Jack has smoothed out a lot after giving some attention to the mana. Like, these are some examples of boards where the whole, like, Abby thing might have been cool, but Generally speaking, I think just having better mana is nice. Okay. So you can Grease Fang. Okay. Yeah. I will give you a Parhelion to your hand. I want that out of that zone. And I believe you are now dead on board. All right, cool, cool. So in some worlds, I'm going to have trouble getting through my opponent's creatures here. Don't know what exactly I'm supposed to do about that. I'm scared of my opponent's combo finish. I have 2 Bosejus that can blow up an artifact. Otherwise, I'm not particularly good at that, because Witherbloom Command only blows up small stuff. I probably have to try to Thoughtseize Grease Fangs out of my opponent's hand. Comes out in that case. Probably like Witherbloom Commands and like 2 Otherworldly Gazes. I don't know how much I like the sideboard of this deck. In that, like, I have a very critical density of things that I kind of need to keep. How's this hand? Turn 1, Watery Grave, Thoughtseize. Turn 2, Bark Channel Pathway, Grizzly Salvage. Okay. Not overly impressed, not overly upset about it either. Gets improved by a decent number of draws. That's one of them. I think I will go ahead and just Thoughtseize immediately. Oh man, double Grease Fang? What is this card? Whenever it enters the battlefield or attacks, exile up to 1 target card from a graveyard. If the creature was exiled this way, drain. Okay. Sure. So I guess the Grizzly Salvage is probably the scariest thing here. I can't take my opponent off of Greasefang. I think a lot of times I just am going to lose this one from being on the draw if my opponent rips Arhelion in 2 draws. Let's find out. Okay, cool. So I'm not immediately dying. That's some good news. I guess I do this at sorcery speed because of the possibility of hitting Silversmite and Creeping Chill. Pick up a Stitcher Supplier here. Dump the rest of those into my graveyard. I mean, there's a lot of worlds where I just get beat down by a handful of creatures, like, even if the Greasefang does not have the ability to return something. Like, it's still 4 power. Okay. Yep. I don't know. Like, this thing is going to be a pain in my butt, because my opponent can exile some of my relevant stuff that's sitting in graveyard. And I don't think I can keep this up forever right now. I think I will just kind of lose to board. There's a total whiff. Otherworldly Gaze right now? Probably not. I think Otherworldly Gaze is better than casting a Narcomoeba. Now, if I hold up Otherworldly Gaze, I can stop this thing from transforming. I've got that going for me. Imagine I lose my Stitcher Supplier here. Nope. They're exiling my lands very aggressively. I will absolutely take a chump block here in hopes of doing something kind of cool between the Stitcher Supplier trigger and Otherworldly Gaze. There is Silversmote Ghoul and a prized Amalgam. So let's attempt to Otherworldly Gaze something. Amalgam can go into graveyard. Thoughtseize can go into graveyard. How do I feel about Grizzly Salvage? Kind of feels like I draw that. Say okay. Put that on top. I'm going to do this now for these ghouls. And having to do this now so I can't hold up Boseiju is super awkward. I think I'm playing Boseiju as a land, which is like awkward in and of itself, but here we are. I'll put a Stitcher Supplier into my graveyard, or sorry, into my hand. Okay, so I can now, I want to Otherworldly Gaze. No. I think I just want a Stitcher Supplier. I just save this for later. Alright, drain 3. Play a Stitcher Supplier, try to make this as good as I can. There's a Narcomoeba, which means I get the prized Amalgams sooner than I otherwise would have. Alright, let's return 3 creatures to play. And hope my opponent can't discard a giant battleship. Alright, let's yield to these things. Okay, this is where it can start to get scary. Uh-oh. So this probably means that this happens this turn. I get punished for advancing my own board. To be fair, I think it's correct to advance my own board. Like, opponent was not milling things in previous turns. So, like, I think if I just hold back all of that mana, my opponent just, like, beats me with this onboard stuff. I had nothing on board at the beginning of that turn. Ugh. Like, I did a cool thing and everything, but I don't think it was enough here. So I will go ahead and block that, take a billion damage in the air. That stings. Not gonna lie to you. Got another Silversmote Ghoul in graveyard, but like my opponent's at 17. I can't attack them to death here. And like these flyers basically beat me in the air. I want to pretend that I can do something with Narcomoeba. Like I can double Narcomoeba chump block. Maybe not die immediately. But with my opponent at 17, I think this game is over, and I am willing to throw in the towel. Yeah, my removal spells don't line up well with what my opponent is doing. I'm gonna resubmit the same thing and just hope it goes better this time. I'm gonna keep this hand. The breeding pool here is awkward because I want black on turn 2. Oh, my opponent has mulligan to 5. I'm going to make a Thoughtseize very good. I don't think I have to do it on turn 1. I think I can wait on that. I think I can just start trying to advance my own play, and in the times where I get lucky and get a bunch of onboard power like I just did, I'm very far ahead. This is going to be an attack for 4 next turn and disrupt my opponent's like central game plan with a Thoughtseize. If I draw a black land, I feel like very confident that I am going to win the game. Hey, a black land. Absolutely. Bring my opponent to 13 and take a card out of their hand. Unlicensed Hearse is really good. Is it still really good if my opponent can't crew it? So if I take the Unlicensed Hearse, like if I take the Graveyard Hate, then my opponent can theoretically get to turn 3, play Lily, get to turn 4, Greasefang, and do the whole Parhelion thing. Can I kill my opponent before that happens? They are missing a land. Unlicensed Hearse is really good. I attack for 5 next turn. At minimum. They miss a land a lot of the time. I'm not going to get greedy. I'm going to take the Greasefang. Like, the unlicensed Hearse is scary, but there's just a lot of worlds where I just lose the game if I let my opponent keep that Greasefang and things go well for them. Like, the unlicensed Hearse is good, but it shouldn't matter in a lot of games because my opponent will just be dead. I also could just draw like a Gurmag Angler here before my opponent uses their Hearse, which would be cool. This is half of my opponent's life total here. Dropping them to 5. And I think I play the thing that has higher toughness here. So let's shock so I can get the blue that's necessary and play Prized Amalgam. Then a lot of times, like, my opponent Liliana Edicts me and I win anyway. Yeah, that's fine. Remove those things. I am good through any one blocker. I am good through any one removal spell. Alright, good stuff. Alright, I think this is my 5th round here, so I think this will be the last one. I don't have the 2 lands that I need to really get going with this hand, and I don't have starting blue mana. So let's just mulligan this one. This hand does nothing. This one's going back 2, unfortunately. It has kept their 6. Ooh. I think on 5, I'm kind of forced to believe here. I'd probably get rid of a Prized Amalgam and a Gurmag Angler. Like, there's a lot of worlds where I just draw a 2-mana play that dumps stuff into my graveyard, and, like, my hand is totally fine and reasonable. But it's not looking great as of right now. I probably lose my Gurmag Angler here. Alright, prediction confirmed. We're potentially playing against, like, a mono-black control deck of some kind. I'm gonna get my tapped Watery Grave out of Or, well, sorry, they kept me with the Underworldly Gaze. Let's just yes to this. When do I want to cast this card? I guess now, in case of very specific niche combinations of cards. All right, graveyard, all of this stuff. That can all go. I'll pick up a Narcomoeba. Be very, very reliant on the top of my deck to do cool things here. Ooh, oh, fuck. Okay. That's very rude, first of all. When do I want to cast a Grizzly Salvage? Probably at instant speed to see if my opponent uses their mana for other shit first. Yeah, probably. Alright, bash in for 1 with the Narcomoeba. Yeah. I'm kind of put into these situations where I want to be using Grizzly Salvage at sorcery speed rather than instant speed. Oh, cool. My opponent has a lot of main deck graveyard hate. That bodes very poorly for me. Alright. They are going for my Angler. I guess since they've used their mana, this is safe enough to just go ahead and do right here. Let's hope to get a lot of sick value. Get a Creeping Chill. Take a Stitcher Supplier, I guess. But I'm not really going to beat this, like, wall of graveyard hate. And presumably, like, there's going to be some amount of removal paired with it as well. Alright, good draw, good draw. Narcomoeba is not a good draw. I guess Otherworldly Gaze into Stitcher Supplier? Or maybe Sorcery Speed 1 first, actually. This blue on the blue on the back, so I probably want the green side. Alright, here's the Stitcher Supplier. There's a Creeping Chill. Guess I'll just do this now. Oh no. All of that goes to the graveyard. Those are some whiffs here. Alright. Silversmote Ghoul in the wrong zone here, and despite the fact that my graveyard has 11 cards in it, it's not actually looking very good right now. I think I need some big payoff card. Also, maybe I should have, like, waited to do this at instant speed on their turn to keep this from flipping. I don't know. Like, trying to hit a Silversmote Ghoul or something while my opponent is tapped out seems like a good idea. Alright. I get drained for a little bit. I think I'm fine with a chump block. And kind of hoping that I hit multiple relevant things here with the Stitcher Supplier. I did hit multiple relevant things. My opponent can eat one of them with Scavenging Ooze. And looking forward to the future, I'm not very good at interacting with my opponent's onboard creatures. Okay, they did cast a spell. I'll take my Narcomoeba and leave me with this in hand. Oh wow, they took my Silversmote Ghoul. Alright. Narcomoeba, not what I'm looking for. Yeah, this game is over. Like, my opponent's Scavenging Ooze and this Graveyard Trespasser are just gonna take over the game. Like, I can pretend like I'm still playing a game of Magic here, but it's very much over in favor of my opponent. Alright, Prized Amalgam goes down first, taking at least 6 damage this turn. This is a brutal way to end this league, I'm not gonna lie to you. I think things get better for my opponent in my post-sideboard games here, and not better for me. Like, this is stuff they are probably going to have in multiples in the main deck. Like, this transforms, and now it's Ooh. And, like, my opponent still has mana up for Ooze. Yeah, I'm gonna throw in the towel here. I see the writing on the wall. I'm getting attacked for damage, and my opponent is stabilizing very quickly. So, like, Witherbloom Command is not going to kill those creatures that I just saw, and Collective Brutality might not either. So I want these Witherbloom commands to not be in my deck. And then I guess I'm attacking my opponent's hand via discard. Do this and trim 2 Otherworldly Gazes. Yeah, definitely missing some sort of, like, Abrupt Decay style removal spell that can just deal with onboard cards, because that's been a problem in a couple of rounds. Okay. I have turn 1 Stitcher Supplier, turn 2 Grizzly Salvage. That probably just means that this is a keep. But I really don't love the fact that I'm, like, very much afraid of my opponent's, like, oh, that's really good. Holy cow. Alright, so we have done the thing and made the 4 power on turn 1, which is pretty good. Again, like, if I get, like, Thoughtseize, though, and I lose this Grizzly Salvage, my hand loses a lot of oomph. Alright. I had, like, an optimal my turn 1, and a terrible my opponent's turn 1. Tapped Breeding Pool, and a hardcast Prize Amalgam next turn, I guess. I could, like, just leave up the ability to sacrifice Silversmote Ghoul and draw a card, but given the fact that I've already used one Creeping Chill, I think I just value the 3/1 body more right now. Please don't ooze me. Okay, what does this do? Okay, it's a 2/2. Like, that's good, but not the end of the world for me. Another one? Okay. I think I go ahead and attack with both of these creatures here. I'm more than happy to trade these bodies off, and if my opponent just blocks this and keeps their wolf alive, I maybe get a chance to do something unfair. Okay, yeah, they're just gonna soak up the damage here. None of this stuff is a swamp for Castle Lockdwain. Probably just go ahead and play the front side of this. And I think the prized amalgam, it comes back from more things than the Silversmote Ghoul does. Although, like, with a Silversmote Ghoul in the graveyard already, maybe I'm supposed to kind of lean into that. Cool. Like, opponent's taken a decent amount of damage here, but I feel like I am very quickly falling behind. I think I leave this back to block this creature. So I don't know, maybe I attack and leave Silversmote Ghoul up. The issue is that if my opponent levels that up and turns that into a 4/4, well, maybe that means I just attack with this one, not the Stitcher Supplier. Alright, I'll buy that. So that could make, like, land drop into, like, Abrupt Decay plus Ranger class level up. Awkward. Oh, we're trading. Obviously very happy with that. But it just probably means bad things for me, because, like, my opponent has another one or something like that. This thing may potentially snowball my opponent later. Okay. Makes a little Vampire Nighthawk, which is kind of a big deal here. Because, again, I can't deal with onboard bodies. I have to deal with them via combat. Yes, I attack with both my creatures at Sorin and deal some amount of guaranteed damage at that thing. Yeah. Life's bad. I will play new Ghoul here and a apt Overgrown Tomb. I don't think I'm going to leave up the ability to sacrifice this. I think I just need all of my lands out of my hand so that when I activate Castle Lockdwain, it doesn't cost me a ton of life. Opponent just found a Blood Chief's Thirst. Oh, they've got a Tassiger. Is Tassiger something that should be in this deck? Over Gurmag Angler? Okay. I can destroy a Ranger class. I don't know how important that is right now. I think I just need to draw a card and leave, like, Breeding Pool, Blooming Marsh untapped, and that leaves me with options for kind of everything. Alright. Let's do this. You don't secretly say Planeswalker, do you, friend? No, you certainly don't. I think the scales have kind of tipped in favor of my opponent in a way that I just can't come back from. Alright. Knew that was gonna happen, and was planning on doing this. Need to hit some sort of, like, Grizzly Salvage type card. Alright. I mean, if I get, like, a Creeping Chill and I get to bring back, like, 2 Silversmote Ghouls and a prized Amalgam, I'm maybe still in this, but, like, my opponent's drawing more cards than I am, has bigger creatures, has mana sinks that I really don't. I chose not to use that ability. Okay, so that card is just still there. There's the Ranger class level up. Take 5 from Tassiger, putting me to 15. my opponent's got this, but I don't think they want to use that on a Stitcher supplier. That's pretty good. Play a land here. Draw a card. 1, 2, 3. I think I'm fine doing doing that before Gurmag Angler. Opponent's just gonna kill this Gurmag Angler with Blood Chief's Thirst later. I don't think I can let this loyalty keep ticking up, but at the same time, like, I'm in bad shape for other reasons too. Alright. This is just gonna die to a removal spell. I don't know that it's worth cannibalizing my graveyard to take that out. So in my opponent's upkeep, I think I will both Sage you. Alright. Goodbye to Ranger class. My opponent has some expensive card that they didn't want to pay the life for on top of their library, so I don't mind shuffling that away. Alright. How bad is it? Pretty bad. Well, I guess it's not that bad immediately, right? Not a 4/4 yet. I do go to 6. That thing comes down. The Gurmag Angler is just not getting me to where I want to be. Okay. Well. Ow. Take 3. Okay. This can maybe go somewhere. I tap this one. I need this to go well. That gets me a prized Amalgam. Which is something, but I really needed other things here. Alright. I play an Angler. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. My board looks a little better. The Blood Chief's Thirst does a lot of work here. I just, like, have ended up with way too many lands this game. I think I need to hold the Stitcher Supplier back as a blocker for Tasigur. Meaning that Sorin can make a Vampire Nighthawk if that's what they want to happen. And if they don't have anything else to do, they just do this. I don't know, maybe Tasigur over Gurmag Angler matters. Like, Karakas isn't a thing in this format, so, like, the legendary downside isn't nearly as large. And for the games that you flood out, like I've flooded out here, like, having that activated ability that, like, mills 2 is pretty good. Although, it returns a non-land card of an opponent's choice, which is awkward given what zones I want some of this stuff to be in. They didn't use the ability. Okay, there's an Abrupt Decay on my Stitcher Supplier. Oh, that's a Creeping Chill. That's super relevant. That may keep me alive this turn. So there's a kicked Blood Chief's Thirst. Given that, I am taking 7 damage and I am dying. I would have gotten 2 Silversmote Ghouls at my end step. But this didn't quite do it here. Okay, I believe that's our 5th match, so let's kind of sum things up here. Overall thoughts on the deck list. I think this has some degree of potential. There's some powerful things going on here, but what I don't like about this is that I don't feel like the games are in my control to win. I feel like there is an extremely high amount of variance adherent in this deck list. So, like, there's times where you Stitcher Supplier and you get Silversmote Ghoul into play on turn 1, and, like, for 1 black mana, you produced 4 power and also Lightning Bolted your mana and your opponent. And when you do those sorts of things, it feels really good. And then you have a lot of kind of clunky hands where you don't quite put anything together. And I think given the amount of randomness in this deck list, and the fact that you don't interact super well with the things that your opponent is doing, I don't know that this deck can ever rise to a, like, competitive tier in Pauper. And by that, I mean, I don't think something like this is going to compete super well in tournaments where everyone is playing the best decks. Like, if you don't interact with the mono green deck, for example, like around turn 4 or 5, like, they will have an overwhelming mana advantage and, like, probably put too many blockers into play for you to, like, ever get through for those final points of damage. And I think some of the, like, green black mid-range decks are taking some of the better aspects of this deck, like Grizzly Salvage, but eliminating some of the lower quality cards from the deck list to just play more generic good interaction. And so I don't know that like what I'm doing here is going to be better than a green-black mid-range deck, kind of similar to what our opponent was playing here. And overall, I'm kind of left with a medium take on this deck list. Like, there's potential here. Like, this deck can do some really cool things. But, like, if we look at the sideboard, for example, even after, like, I've kind of messed with it a little bit, I'm mostly just not feeling like the sideboard is good. Like, I brought in the Thoughtseizes, and that was more or less what I brought in this entire league. And since I can't take too much away from this core, or I don't have an enabler for my various things, I just don't know that, like, this deck is ever going to sideboard well. Like, you can have these adjustments, or, like, some amount of additional disruption or card advantage. But, like, if I had 8 cards I wanted for a matchup, I don't think I would be able to bring in 8. So this is a deck that's only ever going to be able to do small adjustments, and I don't know that small adjustments are going to be what this deck needs to compete against certain things. So you get shot sideways shaky thumb as your overall rating for this deck list. Anyway, folks, I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please click the like button on the way out. It helps out a lot. If you end up wanting to mess around with this deck list or get one of your own decks on the channel, all that information is available in the video description. Have a great rest of the day. See ya!